love to run creative teams.
Yes.
So seeing that Excelgor, seeing what it's going to be able to do, that's super exciting to me.
Yeah, I would love to see it here in this game. It was something that was so strong previously, sort of back in the previous formats, but instead we're going to have that Necrozma Tapu Lele, another two Pokemon that work so well together. Once the Necrozma goes into sort of its Ultra Necrozma form, you can really take advantage of that Psychic Terrain, but it's going to face down against this Incineroar and Xerneas first of all. Psychic Terrain does of course take the field, meaning that Fake Out is going to be unusable for that Incineroar.
And this is kind of the bread and butter of what 2020 Ultra Series has really been for Pokemon. Seeing that Xerneas and seeing that Incineroar side by side, this is such a classic start for John Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Incineroar's definitely in a little bit of a tricky spot here, but of course it does still manage to threaten heavily with any of its Dark-type moves that it has. We've yet, as it is Game 1, it's the information game to see what those are going to be. But first of all, straight out the bat, Necrozma is going to Ultra Burst.
Yes, Ultra Bursting, and this is Pokemon we haven't gotten a chance to see too much on stream yet. That Ultra Necrozma, this is a Pokemon that we got a chance to see in the restricted formats, restricted slots, once we moved into the Ultra Series.
Exactly, it is sort of the face of Ultra Series. Going for a Protect, though, on that Necrozma, as was the Xerneas.
Yes, as we got that Protect coming out for the Xerneas, and now Trick Room being produced from that Tapu Lele. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that one was actually a Magic Room. A little bit of a quirky environment. So what it actually does is nullify all of the items that are on the field, except for things like sort of the Z moves and the Mega Stones. But Magic Room, that's something I have not seen in a while. And most crucially against that Xerneas, it now does not have the Power Herb while Magic Room is in effect.
Yeah, I think I meant Tricky Room when I actually saw that come out here.
It's a Magic Room. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it is very difficult to actually play through, and it's going to make it tough, I think, for John Paul to use any of the items. We tend to see something like Pinch Berry on Incineroar, and so that's not something that gets a chance to be activated here. But right off the bat here, once you've seen that Ultra Burst, we're actually going to see a Z move coming out from that Necrozma.
Yeah, this is going to be that amazing Z move, the light that burns the sky. Such a powerful move, of course, exclusive to this Ultra Necrozma here. Such a devastating attack. Going to be obviously boosted as well by that Psychic Terrain that its partner Tapu Lele very kindly has set up for it. Now, who is it going into?
Oh, that's going to be the big question that we all want an answer to. The light that burns the sky is going to burn one of the Pokemon on John Paul's team, and it ends up being the Amoonguss slot. This might be dicey.
Yeah, Amoonguss does not want to take this attack one bit, and pretty much as soon as it joins the field, it looks like it's going to be sent right back into its Pokeball.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to get sent packing here. And we a lot of times see Amoonguss run something like a Focus Sash, which we're not going to get a chance to know because of that Magic Room.
Exactly, Magic Room being so critical here, really helping out that Necrozma. Moonblast from Tapu Lele followed up into the opposing Incineroar, and Necrozma crucially dodging that Snarl. Tapu Lele, unfortunately, going to have to take that special attack drop, though.
Yeah, and Tapu Lele doesn't want to have to take that special attack drop.
Exactly, it's definitely a big, strong special attacker. You want to keep it as strong as possible. Xerneas, though, jumping in for Jean-Paul here, though, and of course that's a Pokemon that can apply a lot of pressure, particularly once it gets boosted up, but that Magic Room, once again, really helping out. Necrozma as well, having used its Z-move to such devastating effect, does need to watch out a little bit for Incineroar, potentially going for any more Snarls going forward. And Tapu Lele quite wisely switching out here for James, wants to reset that drop that it got. It's also done its job, set up Magic Room, and brings in Groudon, a Pokemon unaffected by this sort of crazy room that we've got at the moment. Its Orb will activate, and Primal Groudon will join the field.
Yeah, Primal Groudon not only joining the field, but also changing the weather that's on the battleground here. And this is going to make Groudon a more formidable foe.
Yeah, exactly. Groudon as well applies a lot of pressure to that opposing Incineroar, so it's a good switch in here to help out with that Necrozma. Necrozma, of course, going on the defensive, just protecting.
Yeah, the Protect is a really good read here from James. He already got so much accomplished in these first couple of turns that he has the ability to slow the pace down of the game a little bit and take their time. U-turn, though, wisely from John Paul, hitting into the Groudon slot, and it's going to reveal another Pokemon for John Paul.
Yeah, I love this call here from John Paul, just getting the Incineroar into the back as well, meaning that you save that Intimidate for later on. You can apply the pressure on the Groudon with that, and then, of course, once the terrain goes away, you might be able to utilize that Fake Out. But loving bringing in the Rayquaza here as well. Airlock will, of course, negate the Fire boost that you're going to get from the Sunshine at the moment, but maybe being able to Mega Evolve up and start dealing some big damage with something like a Dragon Ascent could be optimal for him. And, of course, again, we don't know what the item is on that Rayquaza.
And here's the pair that John Paul was able to get top 4 at the North American International Championships with. I'm really excited to see how this pair works together on the battlefield, but Incineroar coming back in to get another Intimidate drop onto James's Groudon.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait to see what Rayquaza and Xerneas can get up to together on the field as Incineroar does jump in. Photon Goes are coming out again, proving that switch in was fantastic. Dark type's not affected by the Psychic type move as Xerneas goes for a Moonblast.
Moonblast into the Necrozma slot's going to do so much damage. Doesn't get the knockout though, even though it is super effective. And Groudon gets a chance to fire back here with the Precipice Blades, will connect with both Pokemon, and oh, Incineroar hangs on!
Yeah, Incineroar just able to hang on, but of course if it is holding that berry thanks to Magic Room, it's not going to be able to activate it, leaving Incineroar quite literally in a pinch here on 5 hit points, but able to survive. Potentially could be something for Jean-Paul to switch it back out so you bring Rayquaza, avoid the Precipice Blades, but that's not what we're seeing. Instead of Protect.
Yeah, Protect again here from Jean-Paul, getting very lucky here with some of these reads. Really good prediction here. Wants to slow down the pace of the game, and Groudon going for the Fire Punch. Smartly goes into the Incineroar slot, just ensuring the knockout onto Incineroar.
Yeah, exactly. Really well played there by Jean-Paul. And of course, Magic Room and the Psychic Terrain have now left the field, so we're kind of back to this neutral, more normal battle state, as it were. But going for the Fire Punch, I think, was a really smart play. You would have picked up the KO against Incineroar if it stayed in, and even if Rayquaza came in, yes, it's not going to deal a huge amount, but you still will be dealing damage, unlike what Precipice Blades would be doing. Again, I just really liked the play there coming out from Jean-Paul as well, playing that a little bit more defensively with his Xerneas. Keeping the Protect on there as well, just keeping it a little bit safe.
And now we get a chance to see this powerful pair of Pokemon, but James, recognizing that Groudon needs to get a bit of a reset there, has taken a couple of Intimidates, wants to switch it out and bring Tapu Lele back in, maybe set up another Magic Room here.
Yeah, exactly. And crucially as well, Tapu Lele is a Pokemon that can really take down that Rayquaza as long as Rayquaza doesn't hit it on the switch-in with something like a Dragon Ascent. But a Moonblast will be really good to take down this Rayquaza if he's able to get himself into a position to do so. But Mega Rayquaza is going to join the field for now.
Absolutely. Mega Evolving will get Delta Stream now online, so that is going to remove the effects of weather for the moment here. Necrozma going for another Photon Geyser, doesn't have to worry about whether or not it's going to hit a Dark-type Pokemon here. Xerneas, though, hanging on.
Yeah, Xerneas just able to hang on as Rayquaza goes for an Earth Power, just follows up, gets the KO there from that Necrozma, meaning that James now no longer has access to one of his big, powerful restrictions, and revealing the Life Orb there as well on the Rayquaza.
Ooh, and Geomancy finally gets a chance to go off here, which is what Jean-Paul was looking for. You want to have this set up because that is so important for Xerneas to do its work. I really don't feel like James cares too much about losing the Necrozma right now.
Yeah, exactly. And particularly, like you said, getting that Geomancy boost up when Magic Room is not in effect is definitely what Jean-Paul really wanted to do. I think as well, one thing James was doing is constantly targeting Pokemon with that Photon Geyser. That was the move choice he was sticking with. And Jean-Paul did a really good job in the previous turn, switching in the Incineroar to take no damage, protecting on the Xerneas. He's been really good at calling where those Photon Geysers are going, and has managed to put himself into a position where he now doesn't even have to worry about that Ultra Necrozma. Yes, it did a lot of damage to his Amoonguss, but after that, kind of its dealing on the field has kind of been void.
Xerneas is sitting on very low HP, though, here for Jean-Paul, and will be able to get that Dazzling Gleam off, though, because of the boost that it got from the Geomancy. Tapu Lele takes it like a champ, though. Does hang on, and wow, that's going to be a Moonblast coming into the Rayquaza.
Yeah, huge damage. Does pick up the KO against that Mega Rayquaza as well, but so critical that it was able to hang on after that Dazzling Gleam as Groudon follows up with a Fire Punch into that Xerneas and able to pick up the clean KO there. So a double knockout for James there, able to pick up 2 KOs and take the victory.
Yeah, quick victory here for James. Excellent work on his part where he did a great job of using the Necrozma to his advantage and making sure that he had that advantage going into the next couple of turns.
Exactly. The one thing that was really masterful about James here is he constantly controlled the board.
Yeah.
He set that Magic Room up. He also had the Psychic Terrain there that kind of affected the move ability of the Incineroar. But most critically as well, once the Psychic Terrain came away, he was able to bring back in his Tapu Lele, kept it preserved. And as we were talking about, having that Moonblast, that Fairy type attacker against the opposing Rayquaza is critical because he doesn't have a Xerneas or anything on his team. And even looking at the team there again, there isn't really a lot that can deal a lot of damage to that opposing Rayquaza, unless you're, rock sliding with a stack attacker, but then against the team that Jean-Paul has got, it's not really going to be the Pokemon of choice. If you're Jean-Paul, however, I think you definitely have to keep your Xerneas really well protected. You want to get those boosts up. We saw how much damage it did to the Ultra Necrozma, but maybe if you could pick up the KO a little earlier on, potentially even start dealing a great deal of damage to that Groudon and removing that powerhouse on the field, that could be what maybe gets him in the game too.
I like that we see an adjustment ability here for Jean-Paul. It's not just game over yet, but this match really has looked very favored for James. Even in that game 1, he didn't have to really really give out too much information there. He didn't even have to reveal his fourth and final Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I love about here from Jean Paul is he's brought the Tapu Koko to the field, revealing, I believe, that Tapu Lele is a Choice Scarf as it went off first with its Psychic Surge, revealing it's nice and speedy. And that's the other joy about Magic Room. You can have a Choice Scarf Tapu Lele, but if you have Magic Room up, you now are no longer constrained by that Choice Scarf as well. So it makes it so versatile. So loving the adjustment from Jean Paul here, already kind of weakening the ball positioning for Necrozma and Tapu Lele. But of course, you do still have to worry about what that Tapu Lele is going to get up to. If it is holding something like a Psyshock, that can target down against that Xerneas and take a big chunk of damage early on. But if you're James, you also have to worry about how you're going to stop that Xerneas from getting up a Geomancer. Yes, you could go for Magic Room once again and change the stakes, but that's something Jean Paul's aware about now.
That's what I was going to say, is I'm a little worried for James because he did have to give up that piece of critical information. That Tapu Lele had Magic Room, a very rare move that you don't really see on a Tapu Lele.
Exactly, and interestingly enough, the Necrozma here has not protected. We often see it go for a protect straight away so that it can use its Z move previously, but it's in the next turn, but it's leaving itself exposed here from a Dazzling Gleam from the Tapu Koko.
Wow, Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Koko is going to take out over half of Necrozma's HP, but did James read correctly that they can knock out the Xerneas with the Photon Geyser? And yes, he did.
Fantastic there from James. Really brave leaving the Necrozma there. Like I said, so many people predict it just to protect in that turn one so you preserve the Z move, but instead he goes straight onto the offensive, sort of says, I don't need a Psychic Terrain. If I double into that Xerneas, I remove it from the field, and that is something Jean Paul really needed as a Pokemon sort of on his bench that he needed to have the Xerneas, and it's been removed in this turn one. Incineroar joining the field, yes, can apply a lot of pressure here, but really you needed the Xerneas to start sweeping through this team.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one for Jean Paul to come back from now that Xerneas has been removed. You've got kind of two big supporters on board now with that Incineroar now entering the field. You do get the Intimidate drop, but James doesn't really feel that.
No, exactly. And Tapu Lele coming back for James, I think is really wise. You can then reset the terrain later on, and bringing in your Groudon against a Tapu Koko and an Incineroar is really just the perfect opportunity. There's not a lot that Tapu Koko or Incineroar can do to this opposing Groudon. Can't intimidate it either. Incineroar's already on the field, so Groudon's in a great position in the next turn to start firing off Precipice Blades.
Yeah, Precipice Blades might be coming out pretty quickly here. Desolate Land hitting the field, and Jean Paul's only hope to be able to reset that is if he has that Rayquaza in the back. Playing it a little slow though, Tapu Koko going for that Protect, and Necrozma also going for Protect on James's side.
Yeah, really defensive plays from both players here, maybe just trying to scout out what each player wants to do. Incineroar, though, is able to get that U-turn off going into the Groudon that switched in, and this might allow Jean Paul the opportunity to switch things up. It could be, like you said, the opportunity to bring in his Rayquaza.
Maybe we'll see that Rayquaza here. We're about to find out, though. Incineroar going back to the Pokeball from that U-turn, and there it is, that Rayquaza hitting the field.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, he's down to his last 3 Pokemon. He needs to be able to bring that one in, but picking Rayquaza is definitely critical. We've seen how much of a powerhouse this Pokemon can be, and with Necrozma in the low health as well, you might be able to pick up a KO here or there and deal some big damage against Groudon with that Life Orb as well, getting that extra little bit of damage. Tapu Koko, of course, in a little bit of a tough spot against that Groudon. It can, of course, go for that Dazzling Gleam, try and pick up the KO against Necrozma, and Groudon, I think, quite wisely getting out of there because it's going to be threatened by that Rayquaza.
Absolutely. Groudon moving back, and Tapu Lele now coming back onto the field, and with the Psychic Surge resetting the battlefield.
Yeah, exactly. I love Tapu Lele coming in here as well. It stops James having to worry about any extreme speed coming out from that Rayquaza as well, but Rayquaza not even going to Mega Evolve at this stage. Just goes for a Protect, which I really love. It means it's always going to have Airlock on the field as long as it's un-Mega Evolve, as Tapu Koko does leave the field with a little Volt Switch.
Volt Switch, so we're seeing the rotating door of Pokemon come out once again here, but for Jean Paul this time, and Incineroar now coming back out on the field, that gets another Intimidate drop, but again, James really isn't feeling that too much right now.
Yeah, exactly, but well identified. This is where Jean Paul really could come back into this game by being able to switch up his ball positioning, but unfortunately Incineroar is going to be the target of this Earth Power that comes out. The Neuroforce ability as well of that Ultra Necrozma really helping it out, will boost all of its super effective attacks with an extra 25%, and that's something that Incineroar doesn't want to take, but it looks quite bulky.
It does look very bulky. Only took a little over half damage from that Earth Power, but that might put it in striking range where if it is a Pinch Berry, because we haven't seen the item on that Incineroar yet, it might just get knocked out before even getting a chance to have that berry procced.
Yeah, exactly. If it's got that berry, it would be really useful for it. The Electric Terrain obviously allowing that Fake Out to come out into that Tapu Lele, and here's the Z move.
Yeah, we're going to see that Z move once again. Is this where Necrozma knocks out that Incineroar, or Is it going to remove another Pokemon from John Paul's arsenal?
Well, fingers crossed that it's not going to go into that Incineroar slot. Hopefully we'll go into the other one and pick up a KO. But I love this C move. Like you were saying earlier as well, and we've talked a lot about sort of the end of the DS, the light that burns the sky. This is the Pokemon that is the face of that Ultra series. So able to have this Pokemon on the stream here at LATAM International Championships is amazing. It's such a devastating attack. And its target here is going to be that Tapu Koko. Really, really wise, of course. And I believe, looking at the stats that are on Tapu Koko, it should be able to pick up the KO here.
I would hope so. I think
Fingers crossed.
James is crossing his fingers for that one too. Definitely wants to take another Pokemon advantage here, and it is going to be a clean one-hit knockout.
Yeah, it's just so powerful. That's even out of that Psychic Terrain.
Yeah, that's dirty.
Yeah, just such a powerful move. And you can see already that James has got this strong advantage, 2 to 4 Pokemon. Rayquaza going to come into the field here. But once again, it just looks like James has been the master of the ball position. Yes, Jean-Paul has been able to adapt very well with bringing that Tapu Koko to kind of override the terrain and maybe weaken some of the damage that Necrozma and Tapu Lele can do when they're partnered together. But as that Z move does demonstrate that it doesn't even need the Psychic Terrain to pick up these strong KOs. That Neuroforce ability is so critical as well against Pokemon like the Incineroar. So really, from Jean-Paul's perspective, he needs to have got rid of that Necrozma early on.
James has been able to pilot his game plan to almost perfection at some points. We still haven't seen the 4th Pokemon that he brought for Game 1 or Game 2, and it feels like it's almost more of an insurance policy at this point. But with that Mega Rayquaza on the field, does finally pick up the knockout. Maybe we'll finally see that 4th and final Pokemon. Moonblast coming up from the Tapu Lele will hit the Rayquaza, and as soon as it comes out on the field and does some work, it goes back.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rayquaza has just been the victim to Tapu Lele in this set. Incineroar going to go for the Flare Blitz, though, going to try and get revenge for its partner. And it is enough to pick up the KO. So, you know, some really big damage coming out of him. Jean-Paul, he does pick up the double KO, thanks to the Electric Terrain, able to go for that extreme speed as well. And that's the Tapu Lele and the Necrozma down, but you still have to face down against a Groudon, and it's an Incineroar for Jean-Paul.
The Incineroar might not be able to get enough done here, particularly because, there's also going to be a full health Salamence on the board as its partner.
Yeah, exactly, and the Intimidate's not going to help. There's, unfortunately for Jean-Paul, Incineroar, the Pokemon that's been so critical throughout all of this season, just isn't going to be able to come down against these two powerhouses. But I do really like his adjustment that he made into this game too by bringing the Tapu Koko. It certainly had the right idea, but whether he was just able to execute it beyond the capabilities that James demonstrated with ball positioning just may not have been what he needed in this game. But James Baek takes a very, very clean and dominant round 5 game.
What else would you expect, Fro, from the 3rd place Worlds competitor in this last Washington, D.C. Worlds Championship that we just saw? I mean, yeah, come on.
This is the thing. He's no stranger to these kind of environments, and you've talked about his Worlds finish as well. He's shown that he's got that top accomplishment, but he was also runner-up at this championship last year.
Yes.
So he's got the expertise. At the end of the day, this is almost like his stage in a way. You know, he's been here before. He's sat through Day Swiss, and he's gone through Top Cut. So he really knows what it takes to get to the finals, get all the way to Championship Sunday. And he's just proven that, you know, he's not rusty or anything. He's able to come straight into this game and masterfully play around that team. And the one thing I loved so much, actually, in reflection, is how versatile the team is. We talked a lot about the Acelgor. We didn't even need to see it because the team works so well. It has such great synergy with the Necrozma, Lele, and the Groudon as well there to apply a lot of other pressure.
I think James made a really good critical meta read, I think, as well for the Latin American International Championships, and that speaks volumes to why he is walking away from 5 rounds of Swiss with a 5-0.
Exactly. He's done so well so far here in Swiss, and it does not look like there's anything that can stop him at the moment. I think you're right as well. Bringing that Tapu Lele into the fray has been a really good call for this tournament. We see everywhere Tapu Fini. That's a Pokemon that's been really strong, such a great supportive role. And Tapu Koko's made quite a big comeback recently as well. It can attack a lot of sort of the flying type Pokemon. We've seen a lot of Ho-Oh as well, particularly in Europe, coming sort of into the fray, and using some electric type moves against those flying types has really helped it out. As well, obviously, having the electric terrain stops your Pokemon going to sleep. But Tapu Lele has come right back into the action saying, hey, do not forget about me.
Yeah, and I love seeing Tapu Lele make that comeback in such a creative way. James is known for those creative team compositions, making those clean meta reads. But, you know, I gotta hand it to John Paul as well, because it takes a lot to be able to say, after 4 rounds of Swiss, I have a 4-0, and the fact that he had to face against the Titan that is James Baek, that's so